What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Devil All the Time video. This is the latest movie from Netflix and is Tom Holland's first outing in a long time that is not a twee little comic book movie and is a dark look into the sins of the father and revenge. Now, a lot of people may be watching this as it features Sebastian Stan and Tom Holland, as they are huge MCU fans, but this is as far away from the MCU as you can possibly ever get. The movie is based on the book of the same name by Donald Ray Pollock, and he is also the actual narrator for the movie at the start and kind of presents some sort of god and overbearing, omnipresent character, which I really thought added weight to the movie. It is incredibly bleak with almost zero joy and it's over 2 hours of depression, but the performances by the cast are powerful, with Sebastian Stan playing an awful, corrupt cop, and Robert Pattinson's turn as a horrible, disgusting preacher who is just absolutely awful and preys on vulnerable Christian girls. He was absolutely unrecognisable, and I have been kind of championing him for a while now. Ever since I saw him in Good Time and Lighthouse, my mind has completely switched on how I view Robert Pattinson. The movie deals with some heavy themes of religion and how people choose to get close to God and feel their faith, while showing how religion intertwined into middle America can negatively affect people if they choose to succumb to the devil all the time. Yes, I love it when they say the name of the movie in the movie. There will be spoilers in this video as we discuss it, so please, if you haven't watched it and you don't want any spoilers, then please do click away now, as this is your final warning. The book is split into different parts, showing the different stories of the people in Mead and Knockemstiff and the surrounding area. And the movie kind of intertwines these as we see different parts, and I did feel that it got a bit confusing at times, with a lot of time jumps and a little explanation, but the stories are interweaved here in the movie and shows how each one of the cast are connected. Everyone is connected not only by their religion, but the tiny micro decisions they make every day, such as Willard taking the chair as Carl kind of gets up and goes to someone else, leading him to, meet the woman he would go on to commit the murders with. We open with the voice of the narrator, and it shows a map showing the tiny area when the movie takes place. And despite being small, it still takes a long time to drive between the towns that are in the movie. Willard is praying in a clearing, and he is actually an outsider despite even being there 9 years. All of the locals consider him an outsider, but he goes to pray every day with his son Arvin, and he really instills that into his son, which shows, of course, religion is generational. It comes from the father. My family weren't particularly religious, such I never really had much connection aside from going to church with school sometimes. He has a flashback to his time in World War II on the Solomon Islands, and we see the trauma that has changed him forever as he sees a man on a cross which is mutilated, which happened to a lot of American POWs by the Japanese soldiers at the time, who saw surrender as some form of cowardice. This stays with him as he prays to the cross throughout the movie, and it's only until he gets his house with Charlotte that he starts to kind of find religion again, and he forces Arvin to do this too much to his detriment, as it seems Arvin sort of absolutely doesn't like being religious or being involved with it at all. He's trying to get close to God despite the symbol of Jesus being corrupted for him. Now, Willard arrives 12 years earlier back in Mead, Ohio, and goes to a diner to get some food. Now, in a chance encounter, he brushes past with Carl, who would later become a serial killer with his wife, who also works at the diner. You see what I mean about these chance encounters. They have a bit of a friendly discussion about who should take the seat, and he's also wrestling with his connection to his faith, and Carl only really feels close to God when he actually kills, and his wife is the blind devotee. She is the flock, so to speak, of Carl as a preacher. That's how I saw it, at least. Willard starts to fall for the diner worker Charlotte as he is taken home, and the next day he goes to church as his mother tries to set him up with a girl. Now, this is interesting because that girl would go on to be Roy's wife, who Roy then has his own issues with religion and ended up actually killing her. Again, the connection to faith is tested, as his mother actually made a bargain with God that if Willard survived the war, she would arrange a marriage between her son and a specific woman, Helen. We're also introduced to Roy and Theodore, who also have their own connection to God. If you didn't recognise him, Roy is played by the actor who played Dudley Dursley in Harry Potter, which I actually am currently re-watching. And if you're interested in a re-watch thoughts on the Harry Potter series, let me know, as I might make a video on it. As well as different people exploring their connection to the faith, we see different preachers, as the first one we see who seems kind of normal, and Roy is that kind of showman, sort of a circus-style preacher you see would do miracles and things like that, who is devoted to God and says how he used to be afraid of spiders, but is no longer scared, leading him to pour them on his face. And lastly, we have Teagarden, who abuses his position, which is obviously a big theme there for Christianity. Now, funnily enough, the girl who was supposed to marry Willard actually was amazed by Roy, who she later marries. Again, micro decisions affect everything. He moves away and builds a life away from his mother, as Helen, Roy's wife, goes for a fateful drive where she will be killed by her husband and used as a sacrifice to be reincarnated, as the theme of one's faith being corrupted is explored further. Willard and Arvin are praying and interrupted by poachers as he goes to beat them afterwards, as his praying is seemingly the only time he seems to forget the horrors of war. Now, this mirrors a scene later in the movie where Arvin beats up the ones who are bullying his half-sister Lenora, Helen's daughter, later in the movie. He is in a perpetual cycle of faith and violence. Willard is a tragic character as his wife succumbs to cancer, which they discover after he beats the poachers up. Willard becomes desperate to save her, and the only way he can think of is by making sacrifices to God with animals, and lastly he needs a bigger sacrifice, which he uses the family dog. Now, this mirrors the other main stories with Roy killing Helen and Carl killing hitchhikers and Arvin killing the preacher, each thinking that death and sacrifice is the release that would absolve them of their situations. Willard's death is investigated by Bodecker, who is corrupt and one step away from becoming truly evil, as he is just simply self-serving. Willard then makes one last sacrifice, which was himself, and that was the one that was being investigated. This was on the day of Charlotte's funeral, leading Arvin to be orphaned and taken to his grandmother, who also has taken in Roy's child after Roy killed her mother. Now, Roy thought that he had a higher purpose after being bitten by the spiders. He spent 2 weeks in isolation. Funny that, maybe he just had a perpetual cough. These characters' faith are unshakable, and they are indeed fighting the devil all the time, as the movie's name implies. Roy killed Helen as he felt his connection to God waning and expected to be able to revive her. This was all manipulated by Theodore in the book, who didn't like Helen. Roy later goes on to encounter Carl and Sandy, who kill him, and his further shows the butterfly effect of the movie, as if Willard had married Helen, none of this would have happened. Lenora, the daughter, grows up with Arvin as Lenora is bullied relentlessly, with an entire bag being put over her face, and she's been made to think that she's ugly. And this, again, mirrors Arvin growing up being bullied too and being told to fight back by his father. He helps her and actually goes on to beat up the bullies by putting the mask or the bag over their head. He's fanatical in his devotion to his family and seems to have swapped his faith in God for family as well. His skepticism in faith is personified in the new preacher, Teagarden, who shames his grandmother's chicken livers as being a poor dish and gaslights Lenora into sleeping with him, as she has no self-esteem and he shows her attention. And it seems like he is actually the devil that he has been preaching against, and convinces her to try and get rid of the baby, only for her to end up trying to kill herself but having second thoughts, and she trips, and, well, no one will know that she wasn't actually a sinner. Arvin later goes on to confront the preacher, as we learn he was abusing other girls, and Arvin goes to shoot him with his father's gun. This is the same gun Willard said that was used to kill Hitler. How ironic. A man who has charisma and is popular with the ladies was killed with a gun, yes. His advice from his father to end it and get revenge each time has affected him, but he also has a chance at a new beginning. However, he also encounters Carl and Sandy as they go on one last road trip. He hasn't trusted them at all, and, well, Carl doesn't trust Sandy, and her brother Bodecker saw the pictures of the couple of what they were doing, and he decides to do nothing because this is essentially an election year and he's even in the pocket of local criminals. Arvin is about to be killed when he realises something isn't right and ends up getting shot by Sandy as she has second thoughts about her life with Carl. But a gun actually has blanks with him as Arvin goes to shoot her, as Carl didn't trust her later on. He buries the bones of his dog as he heads home, as Bodecker comes after him as he kind of remembers the suicide and puts all the dots together as all of the sins of the past are revealed, and here we are in the final scenes. And he goes to get revenge for killing his sister, but is ended up killed by Arvin, the Winter Soldier versus Spider-Man. Only Arvin, it seems, can actually survive the cycle of violence and death, as he was the most righteous of everyone, ironically, as he defended Lenora and only killed the preacher to stop him attacking other girls, and Bodecker, Sandy and Carl were all self-defense. He's often able to create a brand new life as he fought the devil and won, whereas the others succumbed to him. Overall, I enjoyed the movie as it was one that sits with you for a while, and it's been about kind of 2 days until I've seen it, and I wanted to kind of put my thoughts together before I wrote my script. But it was great, and it was really the biggest thing I took from it was the actors and the whole performances in it. I do think that Robert Pattinson was a highlight, as well as the guy who played Roy, who was just absolutely spellbinding. He was really, really good. And I do hope that Tom Holland starts to make more movies like this, and he does some more independent, iconic movies, which I think he will. Now, that is it for this video. So if you want more from us, please do hit that subscribe with notifications on, and please do hit that like button, as it does help us out massively in the broken algorithm of YouTube. And I'll see you soon, and goodbye.